Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Friday. It's pretty rainy and dreary here. So hope you're having some better weather than we are here in Brighton in the UK. So I wanted to do a short video today to talk all about emotions and feelings and where they come from, what we can do if we're in some difficult feelings and emotions. And just to share really what I've seen about this. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Lindsay Elliott, and I'm a wellbeing and resilience coach in a life-changing paradigm called the 3 Principles. And I also work as an energy healer and a meditation teacher. So my personal experience with emotions and feelings has been that I used to be quite afraid of what I felt. So if I had either very strong emotions or experienced a lot of those sort of more what we as human beings sort of innocently label as negative emotions, such as anger or grief or fear or sadness. Turn phone off, note to self. That I would try really hard to avoid feeling those because I didn't like how they felt. I didn't like what I perceived they meant about me and what sort of person I am. And I felt that I needed to, when I was feeling them, to do something about them. So to try to make myself feel better. And a few years ago, I came across this understanding called the Inside Out Understanding, or 3 Principles, and it really shone a huge light on emotions for me. So what I learned and what I now see to be true is that our emotions and our feelings don't come from the outside world. So they don't come from the events that happen. So such as when I got divorced and when I've had miscarriages or when I've had arguments with people. They don't come from those outside things. Now there is some contact obviously with the outside world and some influence with the outside world, but those events and experiences don't have any power to actually make us feel anything. And when I learned that actually it's my thought in the moment that is creating any feeling that I have, be that a good feeling of love and peace and compassion for someone, hope, or whether it's some of those more tricky emotions, like I said, like anger or grief or sadness or frustration or irritability, that all of those are coming from thought in the moment. So thought and feeling, we can almost perceive it as one energy. So thought will come into our minds. So it's an energy, a neutral energy that passes through all of us all of the time. We can imagine it as a bit like a watery, wave-like energy that comes into our being or into our minds, gives us thought, and then a nanosecond later, it's almost imperceptible that you can't really break the two apart. A nanosecond later, the feeling of that thought will come to you, and you will feel it in your body and in your whole being. And when I understood that that's where my feelings were coming from, I started to get a real sense of, I guess, kind of curiosity and also freedom from that. So because we don't really have any control over what thoughts and feelings come into our system, we might ask the question, well, you know, that information is useful, but I still feel all of these crappy feelings. But what I also saw is that thought energy that's bringing feeling with it is changing all of the time. All of the time. This watery flowing energy, you can imagine it like a river, is changing all of the time and bringing feeling with it. And as such, because I don't have any control over that energy coming through me or that experience coming through me, I also don't have to do anything about it when it's there, because by its very nature, its very essence, it changes all of the time. So even though we may be having a period of feeling angry or an hour of feeling angry, or even 3 days of feeling angry, eventually that feeling will change. Even if it comes back, it will change, because thought in the moment is creating it, not the outside event. And I'm sure that you've had experiences where something has happened and either you felt very angry about it, very sad about it, and then over time, either that emotion has changed or the intensity of it has changed. And that's because thought in the moment is bringing you fresh thinking and fresh feeling all of the time. And we don't have to do anything about this system. It works all by itself. It's part of the human design, and it is designed to correct itself. So you may notice, for example, for example, when I got divorced, I spent a lot of time in feeling very angry, very sad, and a lot of grief. But even within that, when I reflect back, there were times when I would be feeling very angry, then I'd have a different thought and a different feeling would come, and then I'd think about what I was going to have for my dinner. And when I was focusing on what I was going to have for my dinner, those feelings about the divorce weren't there. Then they would cycle back round as my mind focused back on the situation. So this is true of really big things in our lives and also very small things. But what I find very comforting about this is that I don't have to do anything in order to change my emotions. The system, human design, how I'm built, how you're built, will do that all by itself. So even if we can identify ourselves, or we think of ourselves as, say, for example, a very anxious person, even within those experiences of anxiety, even if it seems as if most of our day is spent in that sort of anxious state, there will be brief moments when we're not thinking about what's making us anxious, and those anxious feelings naturally subside, because when we're not thinking about it, we're not experiencing the emotions of it. So a good sort of visual metaphor for this is, if you imagine yourself as sitting on the bottom of the sea or the ocean. So you're sitting on the ocean bed on the floor in the sand, and down at the bottom of the sea, it's always really quiet, always really calm, always very peaceful. So there's not much movement in the water at all down at the very depths of the bottom of the ocean. And then if you imagine that you're looking up at the top of the ocean, and sometimes it's pretty still and pond-like with just a few kind of rippling waves. Other times we've got much bigger waves going over. Maybe it's raining and storming up there. Other times it might be almost like tsunami type style waves going on. So the top of the ocean is continually changing according to the weather. But down underneath, it's always the same. And so this is a metaphor really for how our feelings are. So there's always a place within us that is calm, steady, peaceful, is there just by our very nature, is loving. And then we have all of the waves of our thinking and our feeling going on, passing through us day to day, moment to moment to moment to moment. And sometimes the top of that ocean or sea is very calm, very flat, and we don't have either a lot of emotion and thinking going on, maybe our mind's quite quiet, and we feel quite peaceful, a bit like we do at the bottom. And other times there's a whole heap of stuff going on up there, and it's really choppy, really rainy, really there's a lot of movement in the top of the waves. So I said really rainy because it's really rainy outside my window. But it's knowing that this place of calm, this place of resilience, this place of knowing what to do is always within us. It doesn't go anywhere. It's just that often we're focused on looking up at the top of the waves and what's going on. And so I used to really identify with what was happening in my waves. So I didn't want to be an angry person. I didn't want to be a sad person. I didn't want to be XYZ person. So I either pretended that those emotions weren't there, or I tried to hide them from people or cover them up, because I was totally focused on what is going on in my waves. When really the place always to look is down here with what is true about me all of the time. And this is true for you too. What's true about being human is that we have this pool, this resource, this connection to something much greater than ourselves that is always within us. And our humanness changes all the time, fluctuate. And it's not that it is okay to look there. It's okay to be involved up there. It's okay to really feel it. And in fact, now that I understand where my feelings are coming from, that they're coming from my thought in the moment and not from the outside world, I'm actually much happier to feel them, to not deny them, to allow them to be there. And knowing that there's nothing I need to do to help them to change. Knowing that they will pass all by themselves, and knowing that they have no power other than that which I give them, no meaning other than that which I give them, and that they will change all by themselves. And that's incredibly liberating for me. And sometimes I observe myself over a day and I'll notice that my thoughts and my feelings fluctuate so much, but I'm able to be that observer, that awareness of them, to notice them changing. So really who we in essence are is that awareness who can be aware of, oh, I'm feeling anxious, or oh, I'm feeling angry, or oh, I'm feeling really peaceful, or oh, I feel real love for my child. We are the awareness of, or the consciousness that is aware of all of this human waves that's happening above us on the top of the sea. So I hope this has been useful. And just to really summarize the key points that I hope I have been able to get across, is that emotions and feelings come from our thought in the moment, not directly from the outside world. That they always change, they always shift, all by themselves. We don't actually have to do anything unless our wisdom says, right, you're feeling really stressed, go for a walk. That may pop up to us and it will feel very loving, and like, yeah, that's the natural thing to do. But we don't actually have to do anything to make them change. They will change all by themselves. And in fact, the less that we get involved with them, I find, the more quickly they change. And that all emotions are safe. All emotions are safe because they are a fluctuating energy that's passing through, that changes all by itself. And they don't say anything about who we are, what type of person we are. And we don't really need to give them added meaning, if you like. Don't we need to make it so much about us and our personality? So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for watching, and I will be back next week. Okay, have a beautiful weekend and a lovely week. Bye.